Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Jaya Radha Madhava Radhe Jaya Radha Madhava Sri Radhe Jaya Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada Hare Krishna. So we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 1, Text 6. It's a long one, so we don't have it there. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraet Nasta Praeshwa Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttama Sloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki Mukham Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripa Tamaham Vande Shri Guru Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Hari Om Tat Sat. So I will just read the text. It's quite difficult also. Yarhi Vavaharajan Sarajaputra Priyavrata Paramo Bhagavato Naradasya Charanopaseva Yajna Sabhagata Paramartha Sattvo Brahma Satrena Dikshishyamano Vanitala Paripalanayam nata pravaraguna Ganaikanta bhajanataya swa Pitropa mantrito bhagavati vasudeva Eva vyaya vadhana samadhi yogena Samaviset Shita sakala karaka kriya Kala punaiva bhayanandad yadyapitad apratyam natvam tad adhikarana atmanonyasyamad asatopi parabhavam anvika manaha. Word for word. Yarhi, because bhavaha, indeed, Rajan, O king, Sah, he, Rajaputraha, the prince, Priyavrataha, Priyavrata, Parama, supreme, Bhagavataha, devotee, Naradasya, of Narada, Charana, the lotus feet, Upasevaya, by serving, Anjasa, quickly, Abhagata, became aware of, Parama Artha, transcendental subject matter, Satatvaha, with all knowable facts, Brahma Satrena, by continuous discussion of the Supreme, Dikshisyamanaha, desiring to fully dedicate himself, Avanitala, the surface of the globe, Paripalanaya, to rule over, Amnata, directed in the revealed scriptures, Pravara, highest, Guna, of qualities, Gana, the sum total, Ekanta, without deviation, Bhajanataya, because of his possessing, Swapitra, by his father, Upamantritaha, being asked, Bhagavati, in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeve, the all-pervading Lord, Eva, certainly, Avyavadhana, without cessation, Samadhi Yogena, by practicing yoga in complete absorption, Samavesita, completely dedicated, Shakala, all, Karaka, senses, Kriya Kalapaha, whose total activities, Na, not, Eva, thus, Abhyanandat, welcomed, Yadhyapi, although, Tat, that, Apratyam Natvaiyam, not to be rejected for any reason. Tat adhikarane, in occupying that post. Atmanaha, of himself. Anyasmat, by other engagements. Asataha, material. Api, certainly. Parabhavam, deterioration. Anviksamana, foreseeing. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Sukadev Goswami continued. Translation. Sukadev Goswami continued. My dear king, Prince Priyavrata was a great devotee because he sought the lotus feet of Narada, his spiritual master, and thus achieved the highest perfection in transcendental knowledge. With advanced knowledge, he always engaged in discussing spiritual subjects and did not divert his attention to anything else. The prince's father then asked him to take charge of ruling the world. He tried to convince Priyavrata that this was his duty as indicated in the revealed scriptures. Prince Priyavrata, however, was continuously practicing Bhakti Yoga by constantly remembering the Supreme Personality of Godhead, thus engaging all his senses in the service of the Lord. Therefore, although the order of his father could not be rejected, the prince did not welcome it. Thus, he was very conscientiously raised the question of whether he might be diverted from devotional service by accepting the responsibility of ruling the world. Purport. Srila Narottam Das Thakur has sung Chhadiya Vaishnava Seva Nistara Payeche Keba. Without serving the lotus feet of a pure Vaishnava or a spiritual master, no one has ever attained perfect liberation from material bondage. Prince Priyavrata regularly served the lotus feet of Narada, and thus the prince perfectly understood transcendental subject in truth. Sa Tattvaha. The word Sa Tattvaha means that Priyavrata knew all the facts about the spirit soul, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the relationship between the spirit soul and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he also knew all about this material world and the relationship of the spirit soul and the Supreme Lord within the material world. Thus, the prince decided to engage himself only in rendering service to the Lord. I'll do maybe paragraph by paragraph. Om Ajnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gada Mayham Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamascha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Tam Savadbhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhuva Evacha Patitanam Pavanevyo Vaishnavevyo Namo Namaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Desatarine. Hare Hare Krishna. Please accept my humble obeisances. So, we are discussing text 6, and yesterday Damodar Prasad Prabhu, he was sharing how Srimad Bhagavatam, it rejects all the conventional the conventional way of how the Vedic culture was practiced. For example, in this case, it is saying that although he was Priyavrata, he is a householder, he is getting into household life, but because the principle of Bhakti Yoga is more higher, then it's described that although he's getting into so-called the material world, he can still practice devotional service, because Bhakti Yoga is a higher principle. And this is there in many places in the Bhagavatam where you see things like a son is instructing the mother. Kardama Muni is instructing the mother. Generally in Vedic culture, the kid is not very educated. And then normally the mother instructs the son. But then you have the son instructing the mother. And then you have Prahlad Maharaj instructing his father. And then you have people who were born in demoniac family, devotees like Bali Maharaj, and then who rejected a spiritual master, because he was not practicing, he was not encouraging him to surrender to Vishnu. Srila Prabhupada, he mentions that Bali Maharaj, he is a Mahajan because of one reason. Can you guess what's the reason? He's a Mahajan. Yeah. He's a authority. He's our authority, one of the 12 Mahajans. Srila Prabhupada, he says, because he rejected his spiritual master. So that because he rejected his spiritual master, because spiritual master was saying, do not surrender unto Vishnu. So we find these in Srimad Bhagavatam in many places. The conventional way of thinking is discarded, and the importance of Bhakti Yoga is placed on the supreme platform. And you also have devotees like Vritrasur. He was born in a demon family, but he was a demon, but he was a pure devotee. And you have demigods like Lord Indra. Lord Indra is glorified throughout all the Shastras, but in the Srimad Bhagavatam we see that Lord Indra, he undergoes quite some humiliation, in so many different places. So in this way, Srimad Bhagavatam establishes that no matter the external circumstances, if a person is a pure devotee, then that is supreme. Yeah. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada, he talks in the first paragraph specifically, he mentions that without serving the lotus feet of a pure Vaishnav, no one has ever attained perfect liberation from material bondage. So we sing always in the morning, without mercy of the spiritual master, we cannot attain Krishna. So this we can see in the example of all in our movement, all the disciples who were so dedicated to Srila Prabhupada's instruction. Tamal Krishna Maharaj, he mentions he once had a dream, and he told this dream to Srila Prabhupada. So in the dream, Srila Prabhupada was giving a report. His preaching report to all the previous acharyas. He was saying, the people in this earthly planet, they are not very pious. Prabhupada was giving report to the acharyas in a dream of Tamal Krishna Maharaj. And he was saying, the people in this world are not very pious, but they are following my instructions, so that's okay. They are very dedicated to the spiritual master, And that is their good qualification. That is one good qualification that they have. And Tamal Krishna Maharaj, he said this to Srila Prabhupada later on, and Prabhupada said, yeah, that is actually so. That is true. So we don't have much pious activities, so to say. We don't have any good qualities. We know that once a disciple, he asked Prabhupada, we don't have much pious credits. How is it possible that we could engage in devotional service? And Srila Prabhupada, he says, I created your good fortune. So without serving a pure Vaishnava, we cannot, we have no chance in this age. And that for us, that pure Vaishnava is Srila Prabhupada and all his representatives. And of course, we need a living guru. We also, that was his instruction, that we take someone who is living and we ask question, render service to the pure Vaishnava. Yesterday, I think yesterday or the day before, was the disappearance of Brahmananda Prabhu. He was one of the first disciples who joined, and he was a very Prabhupada man, they called him, and trying to relate to the service of the spiritual master. So he was the first temple president in 26 Second Avenue. He was the one of the many first in many different things. I forgot others. But he is also the one. So Srila Prabhupada really wanted to print Bhagavad Gita in the with all the purports, with everything. And Brahmananda Prabhu was visiting many places, trying to find some publisher. They didn't have BBT established, and so he goes. No, so first he receives invitation from the Macmillan Company, and because they are interested in the CD, the Happening album, I think it was called. So they wanted this record, and Brahmananda Prabhu, he's very excited. A publisher is calling them because Srila Prabhupada wants to print the Bhagavad Gita. So he goes to Srila Prabhupada and he says, they have called me, and what should I do? He said, just go and tell them we have a Bhagavad Gita to publish. And Brahmananda Prabhu says, nothing else? Should I not take the manuscripts? Nothing. No, just go, tell them we have a Bhagavad Gita to publish. So he goes to the Macmillan Company, but then he's a little disappointed because it's not the head who is asking for, it's just the accountant who is requesting for this CD. So he's okay, he just sits there, and then one of the chief editor comes in, and then he just follows Prabhupada's instruction. He goes to the chief editor and he says, hi, we have a Bhagavad Gita to publish. And the editor is shocked, somewhat shocked, because they're looking for, because they have a section, religion section, and the only missing thing was Bhagavad Gita. So then he says, okay, we'll publish it, without even looking at anything, So Brahmananda Prabhu, he is excited. He goes back to Prabhupada and he says, they accepted, and he says, and Srila Prabhupada, it's like he already knew. He just says, okay, good. So many instances of so many devotees who just followed Srila Prabhupada, and by that they attained perfection. So King Priyavrata, in this case, he followed Narada Muni. So Narada Muni is such a wonderful personality. He travels all around in different parts of the universe, and he has so many disciples throughout Srimad Bhagavatam. He has here Priyavrata, and then Prahlad Maharaj, and then you have Dhurva Maharaj, and also the hunter, Mrigari, And even I think Balmiki, I don't know what was his name before, he also was disciple of Narada Muni.
I think it's
Amrigari. Who was the hunter though? The one who was half killing, that was not Narada. Amrigari.
But he told him he makes some askeza, and then after his askeza, these ants make heal.
Yeah.
It's Valmiki called.
Okay. Yes, so many disciples Narada Muni has, and he's they call him the transcendental spaceman. You know, there was one Thai devotee. She was very attached to Narada Muni. We didn't have in Thailand. We didn't have the Bhagavatam translated into Thai. She would always ask the glories of Narada Muni. She left her body, but she really imbibed. She would sing for hours and not get tired. You know, so she had this Shakti. And Narada Muni, he is also singing Krishna's glories. And in fact, in Soho Street once, in the evening Arati, Gaura Arati, Srila Prabhupada, he smiles, and later on, after the Arati is finished, he says, "Didn't you see?" And see what? Narada Muni was here. You know, he was laughing, seeing all the Western people dancing and chanting. And then he instructed the devotees to have 2 asanas at the back, one for Lord Brahma, one for Lord Narada Muni. So they come, you know, to have the darshan. Because in the evening arati, all the demigods are present. If we see the translation, yeah. Lord Brahma is doing the arati, and Shiva, Sukha, Narada, they are all present. So it's a nice meditation that sometimes the demigods might visit, you know. So, yeah, moving on, the word satatvaha means Priyavrata knew the facts about the spirit soul. So just by this one point of surrendering to the spiritual master, the whole process is revealed. It's a science actually, it's not just sentiment. Normally when people do not want to surrender to a personality because they think, oh, person is, let's say, full of defects. You know, they call it a cult movement, you know, when personality cult. Sometimes they have had so many of these in the history that one person, a very charismatic person, people surrender to that person, and then the person misleads them. So it's a disturbance to the society. But the principle of serving a spiritual master, it's a science, because Krishna is very dear to his devotees. Just like when sometimes we go for Harinam, even if the parents are not into the kirtan, if the child is clapping, the parents are happy. If the child is happy, the parents are happy. So similarly, if the devotees are happy, Krishna is happy. So that's a simple thing, but that's the one of the most important principle. Kadamba Kanan Maharaj used to say, imagine that just above the devotee there is Krishna and he is smiling, and when you talk something negative about the devotee, the smile of Krishna turns into a disappointment. So Krishna, he loves his devotees. So it's a principle that if you want to please Krishna, we please the devotees. It's not some kind of cultish thing. And by that, the knowledge is revealed. We call it revealed scriptures. It's not our own effort. We make our effort as our duty, but the knowledge is actually revealed. So moving on to the next paragraph. When Priyavrata's father, Swayambhuva Manu, requested him to accept the responsibility of ruling over the world, he did not welcome the suggestion. This is a symptom of a great liberated devotee. So in the verse also, it's I thought it's significant that when we are requested to do something, we have to be a little careful. Does this hamper our devotional service or not? Anything we perform, we have to take into consideration. Because Rupa Goswami states the essence of all rules and regulations is to always remember Krishna and never forget Krishna. So if any rules help us in doing this, we accept that. And then if it does not, we have to think twice. So this is instructive for us also. He did not welcome the suggestion very much because he was, like Prabhupada says here, he was a great liberated devotee. So even though engaged in worldly affairs, he did not take pleasure in them, but always remained absorbed in Lord's service. While thus serving the Lord, he deals externally with worldly affairs without being affected. For example, although he has no attraction for his children, he cares for them and educates them to become devotees. Similarly, he speaks to his wife with affectionate words, but he is not attached to her. By rendering devotional service, a devotee acquires all the good qualities of the Supreme Lord. So this is a symptom of a great liberated devotee. Of course, we can say we are not in that platform, but there is a nice purport in the chapter where there is a conversation between Devahuti and Kardama Muni, and there Srila Prabhupada says, I had it on my phone, sorry, can I quickly check my phone? So there he states, this is purport to 323.11. The Vedic scriptures are not only full of spiritual instruction, but are also instructive in how to prosecute material existence very nicely. I thought that was nice. With the ultimate aim of spiritual perfection. So when we read something like this, that a devotee does not take pleasure in the material world, although engaged in material world, we can have this in mind, that this is the ultimate aim. Although we may not be in that platform right now, we have to have that aim. Because sometimes it's easy for us conditioned souls to go into pendulum swing, So the pendulum goes from one extreme to the other extreme. So you have one example here of a liberated devotee who is not attached to his children, to the family, but not using this statement, it can also be misunderstood and misapplied. And devotees may, just for the sake of avoiding the responsibility, then say, I'm not attached to my family, I'm not attached to my children, and then not be responsible for their, not perform their duty. So that we also have to be careful that we don't misunderstand. And if we are not in that platform, we do what is assigned to us, but have the aim, like Srila Prabhupada says, of this spiritual perfection. Right? Yeah. So Lord Krishna had 16,000 wives, all of them very beautiful, and although he dealt with them, each of them as a beloved husband, he was not attracted or attached to any of them. In the same way, although a devotee may enter family life and act very affectionately toward his wife and children, he is never attached to these activities. Yeah, I mean, we have to imbibe these purports. Srila Prabhupada, he actually requested devotees to give purports to his purports. So it also shows that we need someone who is senior to us, who can guide us. Although for the purpose of Srila Prabhupada are present, things like this we may misunderstand. So Krishna, he is Atmaram, he is not attached to, let's say, he's bound by his devotees on one hand, but then he is Bhagavan, and one of the qualities of Bhagavan is all renounced. When he was in the rasa dance, he was able to just leave. That shows his renunciation. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also, when devotees in Jagannath Puri, when devotees were very attached to him, they did not want him to go to Vrindavan, but somehow he leaves, and it says he doesn't even look back, so he is detached. So the Lord is detached in that way. The next paragraph. This verse states that by serving the lotus feet of his spiritual master, Prince Priyavrata very soon attained the perfectional stage of Krishna consciousness. This is the only way to advance in spiritual life. Coming back to Brahmananda Prabhu, he also shares a dream where he goes to the spiritual world, and then there is the doorkeeper there, and the doorkeeper stops him and says, "Who are you? Why are you here?" And he says, "I am a devotee of Krishna." The doorkeeper is hesitant, but then he says, "I am Prabhupada's man." And the doorkeeper says, "Okay, you can go, you're Prabhupada's man." So, yeah, again, serving the spiritual master, that's the perfection. That's how we advance in spiritual life. It's stated in the Vedas, "Yasya deve para bhaktir, yatha deve tatha gurau, tasyaita kathitahi arthaha prakashante mahatmanaha." If one has unflinching faith in the Supreme Lord and the spiritual master, the essence of all Vedic knowledge is revealed to him. And there is a nice verse in the 7th canto, and Srila Prabhupada actually puts this in his poem when he is in Boston, Markine Bhagavad Dharma. And this is a prayer by Prahlad Maharaj to Prahlad Maharaj to Krishna, to Nrsimhadev. He says, "My dear Lord, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, because my association with material desires one after another, I was gradually falling into a blind well full of snakes, following the general populace." And he says, "But your servant Narada Muni kindly accepted me as his disciple and instructed me how to achieve this transcendental position. Therefore, my first duty is to serve him. How could I leave his service?" So a devotee is naturally very grateful to the spiritual master because we are in debt to him. Srila Prabhupada, he says, one can never repay the debt one has to the spiritual master, but we can try. In his last will, Gopal Krishna Maharaj, he writes very nicely, "I do not owe any debt to anyone, but I owe everything to Srila Prabhupada." He was in the last will. Normally, people write about all the let's say the monetary thing and stuff. So he writes, we are all in debt to Srila Prabhupada. So this attitude of gratitude, as they call it, it's one of the stepping stone to this. Let's say we cannot experience that pure love that the devotees we read about, but this gratitude is so nice that it very closely resembles this pure love, and that is something we can have. One devotee, he would share, if you are not grateful, you are a great fool. So we have this gratitude because we have received something quite valuable. Yeah. So we have gratitude to Srila Prabhupada and our spiritual masters. And the way we can repay them is we try to do something to repay back. Srila Prabhupada, he gave so many instructions. That's following them means following their instructions. And he writes, of all the instructions of the spiritual master, the chanting of the 16 rounds is the most important. So we follow these basic principles, and he gave so many instructions. One instruction that I like very much is, your love for me will be shown by how much you cooperate with each other after I'm gone. So that's a big challenge, especially because in this age it's difficult to come together, you know. Just coming together, it's actually, and not doing anything, just coming together is it's a win. Vaisheshika Prabhu, he organizes these Sankirtan festivals, and for the first day that they go out, their goal is not to distribute any books. Their goal is to just get together, go to the street, touch the street and come back. That's their first goal. Because he says, in Kali Yuga, just to bring people together once a month is difficult. So cooperation is quite difficult in this age. But it's needed to push the Sankirtan mission, because alone it's impossible. And that is why Srila Prabhupada also established an institution. Although institution, normally Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not have an institution, he just preached. But institution is needed so it can be organized, and it can be it can be organized nicely, and because it's a preaching mission, it's not just one person going out and doing a little bit here, it's collective Sankirtan. So yeah, cooperation is one instruction Srila Prabhupada gave that we can endeavor to follow. And in this point, Mahatma Prabhu, he shares something very nice which I like. He says, it's more important to work together than to follow what's true sometimes. Working together is a higher principle than following. I mean, not for important principles of devotional service, we don't compromise that. But if you think something is true and you have working together is a higher principle. You sacrifice your, so let's say, relative truth. So while chanting Hare Krishna, the words Krishna and Hare immediately remind him of all Lord's activities. Since his entire life is engaged in the service of the Lord, a devotee cannot forget the Lord at any time. Just as an ordinary man always engages his mind in material activities, a devotee always engages his mind in the spiritual activities. This is called Brahma Satra, or meditating upon the Supreme Lord always. Prince Priyavrata was perfectly initiated into this practice by Sri Narada. So here Srila Prabhupada says, by chanting Hare Krishna mantra, the words Krishna and Hare remind him of the Lord's activities. So we are not impersonalists, we are personalists. You know, our philosophy is that Krishna is a person. And Srila Prabhupada, he is, in his pranam mantra, we have Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschata Desatarine. He destroys impersonalism and voidism, especially in the Western world. And in the book by Brahmananda Prabhu, he writes that devotees initially, they thought this group called Mayavadi, Srila Prabhupada had some kind of fight in India, and he's frustrated, and here he's saying saying this so much. And once even Kirtanananda Swami, he goes to Prabhupada and he says, Srila Prabhupada, you know, you say so much of, you are so much against this impersonalism, but here in the West we don't have so many impersonalists, we don't have so many Mayavadis. And Prabhupada tells him, you are saying this because you are a Mayavadi. So we're all tiny impersonalists actually. We have this impersonalism within us. And the modern culture, it's actually all impersonal. Especially the technology we have, it's all impersonal. There was a meme, it said, previously people would say, if I can call, why should I text? Now people say, if I can text, why should I call? So people are less impersonal, and the technology, it facilitates this, you know. And the other side of impersonalism is we exploit the environment. Also, that is impersonalism. Previously, we had the environment, people would refer to it as Mother Nature. So Mother is a person. But now we have environment is for me to exploit. Impersonalism, you know. So Srila Prabhupada, he came to destroy this impersonalism and also we have this impersonalism because we don't see Krishna as a person. While chanting maybe, or while doing the deity worship. So Krishna is a person. And they say that to exploit someone, you have to first reduce them to less than human. Reduce them to impersonal things. For example, people kill cows, they eat, but they find it very disgusting to eat cats and dogs. Why? Because the society has placed a face on cats and dogs. They're very cute, you know. There is a face. So when there is a face, when there is a person, people cannot exploit that thing. But then for cows, there is no face to the cows, you know. It's a commodity, and then it's easier for people to exploit. And that's what happens in wars also. You exploit someone because you think that person is not a person. You know, they're less than humans. So the personalist philosophy, it can really solve all these issues that we have that's relating to impersonalism. And so many of these impersonalist philosophy that are related, very much connected to the postmodern philosophy of whatever, we have so many things. It can solve so many problems. Just when we are personal in our dealings with everyone, when we see the nature as a person, when we see the animals as a person, it can solve so many issues. So yeah, and the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra is also a person. Krishna Nam Namakari Bahudan no Nama Chintamani Krishnas Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha Purna Shuddha Nitya Mukta Abhinnat Nama Namino. So Krishna is not different from his Mahamantra. So it's sometimes I think I got a little bit of deity worship training, and there was so much of importance put into purifying the mind and the body before you enter. You know, you have a manasa, you purify your mind with mantras. And I sometimes think if we put the same consciousness into chanting, it would be so nice. Especially for me, I'm thinking for myself, just meditating. Of course, there are no hard and fast rules for chanting, but Krishna is the holy name. Sometimes I call my mother, and when I'm calling her, she's in her office talking to her colleagues, and I get irritated, And I relate this to how Krishna must be tolerating our so-called our chanting, so to say, because we are calling him, inviting him, but we do not pay attention. But still, he is there. For so many lifetimes, he's there. He's accompanying us. So Mahatma Prabhu, he says, inattentive chanting is not an innocent thing. That's what we recite in the morning. It is also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. It's an offense. It's not an innocent thing. Because we know the value, we know what is the Mahamantra, and when we know the value and we still, if we do not make an endeavor, then that is an offense. Of course, if people do not know anything and then they chant, for example, if a new person just chants, it's Namabhas. You have to actually make an effort to come to Namaparad. So Krishna is a person. It's a nice meditation to meditate that the holy names, they are also person. Thank you. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Is there any comments or questions maybe?
Thank you for the class. Many nice points about impersonaries, about holy name, about cooperation, working. Yes, and thank you for reminding about holy name also. It's so important to chant properly, to listen. Sometimes it's like this, our practice is so deep, this. I mean, like it's simple, but also it's deep because it's this simple process of chanting is transforming our heart. It's help to us realize about our relationship with God. But because we have some desires or some different things, we avoid this. We tend to do many things externally, even sometimes preaching. Many people become devotees, they start to preach, but they don't want to change their heart. It's also good to engage our external things, but inner transformation is real preaching, I think, because if you will be with Krishna, if you become his servant, and if you have taste for holy name, then you can attract people for Krishna. People can be attracted for him. Otherwise, if you don't chant attentively, you don't have time to read Prabhupada books, and so on, we just focus on external, then is what we can attract people for. Of course we can attract to Prabhupada, who will give them Krishna. But still, it's like, I just appreciate these points about this, how it's important. And also, maybe I can ask a question. In today is the 6th verse,
Yeah.
In the verse said, just a moment. It's a big verse. With advanced knowledge, he always engaged in discussing spiritual subjects and did not divert his attention to anything else. It's also maybe you can share how you're trying to be focused, because it's so easy to be diverted. So many things in our mind.
Yeah. How to focus?
Yeah, how to not be focused and not to be diverted, distracted by different things.
Yeah, I think Tamar Krishna Maharaj, when he was doing so much of things for Prabhupada, he once went to Prabhupada and he said, while I'm chanting, I'm just thinking about cements and bricks. I'm not able to concentrate. And Prabhupada, he encouraged him and said, Arjuna was also not thinking, he was thinking how to do his service properly. So that is also if we are thinking about how to perform our service, that's also devotional service. Yeah. So.
In Purpose it said also that when we always remember Krishna, then we will be always engaged in his service, because it's like connected to each other.
Yeah.
Like you do externally things, think about bricks and different things.
Yeah.
But goal of this to please Krishna.
Exactly. Yeah.
Spiritual.
Yeah, that the intelligence, when it's purified by reading sastras, then even while doing service, we can have this consciousness that we're doing it for Krishna, and we don't do it on the mental platform. Yeah. One interesting thing about what you said, there are normally two types of devotees, Bhajananandis and Goshtianandis, right? So Bhajananandis, they like to sit down and chant for their own purification, but they also purify the environment. And Goshtianandis, they like to preach. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he said, the best Goshtianandi is a Bhajananandi who likes to preach.
So that would be an introvert and an extrovert, basically, if you translate it to simple.
Not exactly, but you can, of course, introvert and extrovert has nothing to do with Krishna. But
Yeah. Sort of basic, very basic.
Yeah, very basic, yeah. So, we do our bhajan, but also we like to preach.
Never is anyone just introverted or just extroverted, right? It's always both qualities.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, you mentioned so many wonderful points. And one of them is the cooperation and how Prabhupada loves it so much, and how we can really just attain Krishna if we go through a devotee and please the devotees. Could you maybe share on how really like practically we should cooperate better and how to behave, what our attitude has to be?
One thing that comes to my mind is having a mood of compromise for something that you believe is true, but for the sake of the group. Like what I said, getting together is higher than what's true sometimes. So maybe we can, because it's not possible for everyone. Suppose we have something that we feel is very perfect, and the other devotee feels this is very perfect. So what both of them can do is come to a middle ground where they both agree, this is what we can agree on. I think that's something we could do. These days the GBC meetings, they are live broadcasted sometimes. I mean, they're recorded and broadcasted, and I listened to one, and of course they have such a hard time coming together sometimes. One GBC was questioned, how is it like in the GBC meetings? And he said, it's like you are chewing sand. It's so difficult sometimes. And Radhanath Maharaj, he was invited to speak in the beginning because they had a critical discussion. It was between one of the very opposing topic. And he said, although we may succeed, what did he say exactly? We may win in some cases, but if we are not respectful to each other, we still lose. We may win the argument, we may be true, but still, if we are not respectful of the devotees, then we lose. So I thought that's nice. Being respectful. Even though we may not agree with the other person, we can still understand where the person is coming from. We can still respect a person, even though we may not agree. This, it's very simple, like you said, But Prabhupada said once, Krishna consciousness is so simple you can just miss it. It's so simple you can just miss it. So yeah, just having this attitude of respect, although we may not agree. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai.